Well, good morning, everybody. Sarah here with UT Extension Cott County, and I just wanted to do a quick video update like I promised y'all in my post this morning about frost injury and damage to plants. So for the past couple of nights, we have gotten down around freezing and maybe just a tad bit below it. And as we know, with the warm weather that we'd had, we have a lot of new plants sprouting and growing. Maybe people have put out gardens already. We have lots of tender foliage out in our landscapes right now, and that can be kind of frustrating when a frost like last night or the night before comes through, because then we end up with some frost damage and some frost injury. So what does that look like? Well, it can look very similar to herbicide damage, and what you'll see is leaves that wilt and then eventually turn brown, especially along the edges. And it's going to vary a little bit by plant, but basically it's a very sudden onset of a plant that looks really sick for no apparent reason. No spraying has been done, no insect or disease damages, and kind of all of a sudden the plant looks sick and it maybe even looks a little bit dead. So that, paired with the fact that we had really cold weather for the past couple of nights, is a classic example of frost injury. So if this has happened to you, what can we do? Is my plant completely dead? Possibly. It's hard to know that without seeing each individual plant, but chances are it's just a mild injury, and if it's a mild injury, we can actually care for those plants through that injury and eventually they will be fine. So what do we need to do? Well, the first thing we need to do is we need to water that plant. Even frost damaged plants still need water, okay? So check the soil around that plant. Make sure that there is water available, that the soil is moist. If it was a really hard frost, which I don't think that we had, but if it were a really hard frost, that water may be frozen in the soil and not accessible to the plant. So monitor the water needs of that plant very closely. Second thing, you might be interested in adding fertilizer to it. And while that's tempting because, oh, my plant has been damaged and I want to give it some fertilizer to help it grow and help it get over this hump, while all of those are great intentions, if we fertilize too soon, we can actually encourage that plant to grow more. And if we have another cold snap, we could actually end up damaging that plant more with more frost damage down the road. So it's best to hold off on the fertilizer until we're for sure that spring is here and that the likelihood that we're going to have any more cold snaps is very, very unlikely. So I know it's really tempting to want to do that, but now is the time to hold off on that for just a little bit longer. Maybe on up into May, especially after blackberry winter, would be a better time to do fertilize. And then the last thing that we can do to help protect our frost damaged plants and help them grow into healthy, happy plants is pruning. Everybody always wants to go in and prune that dead foliage off or that dying foliage off really soon because it's ugly. It's not very pretty. Actually, don't do that until we're past the period where frost damage can occur, because what we'll see happen is that dead foliage actually works to insulate the growing parts of that plant, and it helps it protect it from other future frost damage events. So those are just some tips and some tricks about dealing with frost damage. Hopefully that is helpful to y'all and timely. If there's other things that you want to know about, by all means, Extension is here. We are still here to serve you. We're just doing it in a little bit of a different way. So if there's something you want to know about, reach out to us and we'll be happy to share that information. And y'all can wave and say hi to the mailman in the background. Have a good day, y'all.